So coming up on today's show, we're going to do something a little bit different than we usually do here on the show. And I want to talk about three players that are not named Deshaun Watson or Myles Garrett who have a big influence on this 2023 Cleveland Browns season. So I thought it could be fun to look at some X factors. I mean, they not might be your traditional X factors because there are some big name players involved. But sure, you need Watson, you need Garrett to have good years if this team is going to be successful. But I think these three guys also need to have big seasons as well. Now, speaking of the 2023 season, I cannot wait for Browns-Bengals Week 1. I'm not even all that excited for Browns-Jets in the Hall of Fame game. It'll be fun to see decent quarterback play if it's DTR versus Zach Wilson for at least Hall of Fame game standards. But I've always been a big believer that the preseason is the biggest blue balling in sports. I want the regular season. Nothing matters until September. So if you're with me, like today's video. Now, my first X factor for 2023 is Za'Darius Smith. The Browns added him for just really one reason. Why not? He was very good, and he was available, and only for a day 3 pick swap. And now he looks to be a pretty crucial player for Cleveland's success this upcoming season. Because we learned last year that Myles Garrett is Superman. But even Superman and his 16 sacks can only go so far, right? Myles Garrett can have a 20-sack season. That's not going to get them over the edge, right? That's not going to push them over the hump and get them wins in January. Now, when you look at Cleveland's defense from 2021 to 2022, you had two great edge rushers in 2021. Jadeveon Clowney was nearly a 10-plus sack player, and Myles Garrett is always a 10-plus sack player. But you can see the difference in when Jadeveon Clowney sort of fell off a cliff last year and it was just Myles Garrett on that defensive line. And keep in mind, even Myles Garrett wasn't even up to his standards. He was dealing with a car crash in the first third of the season. This defense regressed, no question about it. So if everyone's healthy, if Myles Garrett, Okoronkwo, and Za'Darius Smith, and even, hell, Alex Wright or Isaiah McGuire, if they're all healthy, these opposing offensive lines in November, December, in the third or fourth quarter, when they've already been playing for 9-10 weeks, and it's a long season, and those snaps are starting to pile up, and they are gasping for air in the fourth quarter against Cleveland, and who's in front of them? Za'Darius Smith, who's been rotating in and out, and he's got fresh legs. Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare for these opposing offensive lines. Because Za'Darius Smith last year, he got off to an amazing start. Unfortunately, a knee injury afterwards really slowed him down, and I would say majority of cases he would have been on IR, but the way his contract was structured, if he wanted to get paid, he had to play. But 9.5 sacks in the first 10 weeks of the season. If Za'Darius Smith is healthy, ladies and gentlemen, we might have our first time since 1984, 2 Browns players with 10-plus sacks. I had to scroll back very far, okay? The 10-plus sack players, by the way, in 1984, of course, you had Clay Matthews, and then you also had, I don't want to get his name wrong because I'm definitely not from 1984. We had Reggie Camp with 14, Clay Matthews with 12, Camp with 14. This is an opportunity for Cleveland to make history. I mean, the first time, at least since 1999, the Browns will have 2-plus sack players if Za'Darius Smith and Myles Garrett can do what they have done several times throughout their career. So if you're taking down Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, the coolest kids in the block, right? The Titans of the AFC in January, when it matters most, and in February, it's going to be with offense and defense. You're going to have to beat them in a shootout. You're likely going to have to take down 2 of these 3 quarterbacks. And it's not going to be through just one area of the football. It'll require excellence in offense, defense, and special teams. But if you think Deshaun Watson and 35 points can be enough, you'll be disappointed when Patrick Mahomes puts up a 50-burger. So you're going to need defense. You're going to need Za'Darius Smith late in the season, Okoronkwo, Myles Garrett, with a deep rotation complementing one another so that they are healthy, they are fresh legs, and they are ready to go, and they can take down these juggernaut quarterbacks. So call your shot right now. Will the Browns have 2 10-plus sack players in 2023? I'm typing a Y for yes. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section, though. My second X factor for 2023, this might be mainstream, but hear me out. I'm going to go with Denzel Ward. Now, the Warden was MIA last season, not his best season. I mean, PFF graded him as the 88th best overall cornerback in football out of 118 qualifying players. For a guy that got 5 years, $100 million contract extension, he certainly didn't look like a $20 million cornerback last year, but hopefully there will be improvement with Jim Schwartz in 2023 because this defense needs it, right? If we go back in time for just a moment, Denzel Ward in 2021, which was arguably his best season so far of his NFL career, overall grade of 76.9 from PFF, coverage grade of 75.9, those tower over what he did in 2022. Fewer yards allowed, lower or higher completion percentage, one more touchdown, but he was picked on in 2021. Way more targets his way and fewer yards. Denzel Ward simply took a step back last year. There's really no other way around it. We can discuss the X's and O's and the details of putting him in a zone when I think he could be better used in a man coverage. But the fact is, Denzel Ward did not look like a top-paid cornerback last year, and he needs to be. So with that being said, though, I want to get to 21,000 subscribers in honor of Denzel Ward, his jersey number. We have a ways to go, but I'm counting on the Dawg Pound to get us there. So if you have not subscribed, go ahead and do so. Now, getting back to Denzel Ward, he's got some tough matchups, right? He plays Jamar Chase twice, which, by the way, I mean, that's his daddy. Jamar Chase should have called him for Father's Day. Odell Beckham Jr. now twice. Deebo Samuel and DK Metcalf are on the schedule this year, along with Cooper Kupp. Jerry Jeudy ended the year on a high note last year. DJ Moore goes over to Chicago. That's never an easy matchup for opposing cornerbacks. And Garrett Wilson I tossed on there because I think he is a rising star in this league. So for Denzel Ward being the second highest paid cornerback in the NFL, if this team is going to go on a deep postseason run, of course it's going to require elite play from a lot of different players and a lot of different positions. That's sort of Captain Obvious speak here. But for what Denzel Ward is paid to do, he has to lock down some of these top wide receivers because it's a pass-heavy league. Quarterbacks dominate. Wide receivers are their best friends. And if you want to slow them down, there's two ways to do it. Through the edge rusher spot, which Cleveland has invested a ton in, and also through the cornerback position, which the Browns have a loaded room with Greg Newsome as like the CB3. Greg Newsome, ladies and gentlemen, would be CB1 for a good chunk of teams in the NFL. That's how deep the Browns' depth chart and roster is. But Denzel Ward, I think he's going to be an X factor for this team because we've spent so much time talking about Deshaun Watson, Myles Garrett, Za'Darius Smith, this offense and everything. And I don't know if it's just me. Maybe other people feel the same way. He kind of got lost in the mix a little bit. He kind of got lost in the shuffle. Can Denzel Ward return to being an undoubted top 10 cornerback in the NFL? Because I think right now, if you asked your, above average NFL fan to rank their top 10 corners, he'd be right there between 8 and 12. Let's get him firmly closer to number 5. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Sauce Gardner or Pat Surtain, but let's get him towards the top 5 conversation. Now, we have more coverage to get to in just a moment, but we have an awesome deal going on right now where you don't just get a Browns polo, you get one of Petey's polos on sale. Chatsports.com/Browns polo. I wore mine to work yesterday. I walk to work now, trying to get in better shape, and the backpack sweat was real. So I couldn't wear my Petey's polo today. It's in the wash, but make sure you get your own right now. It's got the elf on it. It's got the helmet. It's got everything you're looking for. That link's in the comments and the description of today's video. My third X factor now for 2023. Yeah, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with kicker Cade York because last year was simply put dreadful after the first game of the season, right? We're all going to chase that high of the 58-yard walk-off, essentially, winner against the Panthers. But statistically speaking, for being a fourth-round pick, he was one of the worst kickers in the NFL. And that's just fact. 73.3 field goal percentage was towards the bottom of qualifying kickers. Now, a big issue for Kade York last year was he never got comfortable kicking by the lake. You look at Kade York's stats home versus away, and he was very good in dome situations, away from the lake in the wind. And that's true for a lot of kickers, and Phil Dawson knows that firsthand. But the fact is, Cade York's going to play a majority of his games in Cleveland. So he has to figure out how to kick by the lake. And that's a big reason why Bubba Ventrone was hired by the Browns. And a big priority and mission for him this offseason is to get Cade York back to what he was doing in Baton Rouge and what the Browns believed he could be for Cleveland when they drafted a kicker just in general, and also in the 4th round as well. Now, another, I wouldn't call it beef, but another thing that needs to be improved with Cade York is the clutch kicks, right? The last 4 minutes of the first and second half, he went 7 for 11 last year. That is 63.6%. He had a bad miss. Bad's a strong word. He had an unfortunate miss against the Chargers. Looking back at it, it was a 53-yarder. It was not a good kick, though. But the point is, if you're going to go on a deep run once again, I talked about it with Smith, I talked about it with Ward, I'll talk about it now for Cade York, you're going to have a lot of clutch plays on offense, defense, and special teams. And they're not going to go to a Super Bowl and go on a big run with a shaky kicker. I just don't believe it. I just don't see it happening. So calling on Cade York, going to need some Yorkers this year. We're going to need some walk-off field goals and a bounce back from last year. Before we get on out of here, I just want to give some shout-outs to everyone who has shared our content over on Twitter. The Brown Tiger, a legend at the channel. Billy is the undoubted king of it. Joshua Miller, Joshua Heisler, Dawg Pound Derek, Cam from Canada is as entertaining as they come. Graphic Burns, if you like the intro video for this episode, you can thank Graphic Burns for that. Hit him up for all those similar types of needs. Brady Lacheyaway with a really nice share and comment over on Twitter. Thank you so much, Brady. Ray Bidding and Ryan Chowdhury, also MVPs of the channel. Now, the moment that producer Nick Roloff has been waiting for, pick a card time. We end all of our episodes this offseason with picking a random card. No big deal. I got one.
Yeah?
Raise your hand if you have picked a card correctly. You at home, too. Don't raise your hand if you didn't pick a card correctly. No. You want to? No? Arm not working?
Very mean.
You cramping?
Very mean.
You cramping?
Very mean, Petey. Very mean, Petey.
I'm not nervous at all.
I think I'm going to nail it. At least this time.
I'll let you pick 2 cards. I'm that confident you won't get
No.
Maybe a Mickey Mouse, too.
I'm going to win on real merits.
Okay.
I'm not going to win on 2 picks. I'm visualizing a 5 of clubs. 5 of clubs.
That was incredibly unconfident. I'm going to go with a Jack of Diamonds.
I just visualized a 5 of clubs.
All right, one last
I will say
this,
Petey, if I don't get it this time, that's fine. But if I witness you get it right, I'm never coming back on the show.
5 of clubs?
Yeah, 5 of clubs. 5 of clubs. 5 of clubs.
Not even close, dude. 2 of spades. 2 of spades. 2 of spades. That is it for today's show. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day and hanging out with us here. We're going to sign off. We're going to catch up with everyone later. If you have not subscribed, consider going ahead and doing so. Like the video, comment, share, all that good stuff.